Thank you very much. We're going to start the regular meeting of the Transportation Committee. Mr. Bond is on his way. What I'd like to do is consent on items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are all dealing with renewals of temporary parking permits. And before we go to 6, and 7, is that we'd ask for public comment. Dr. Williams, you wanted a public comment. Well, you had two cards, so we can merge them or you can do them individually. Public comment.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno. This morning we had the 710 presentation in opposition to the proposed extension of the 710 from I-10 to the 210 or the 2. Although this has been going on for 50 years, people say wait until they figure out what's going to happen. We've tried that. We participated in many meetings with Caltrans. They had previously said that they would do an environmental, transportation, traffic, and geotechnical feasibility study. They then revised it 2 years ago to just a geotechnical. Now they're proposing to do a much broader feasibility within the same purview as the geotechnical, except for one thing: no public participation will be allowed. Although they've had a lot of meetings regarding the geotechnical and told us, no, wait until the environmental report, wait until the environmental report. This is not a new project. Many people know it from 20 years ago when it tried. There's been, in 1999, a court injunction against any further construction on the 710. There is a great deal of distrust of Caltrans, rightfully, and thereby we highly recommend to stop the 710 in any fashion going through Northeast LA. Some people say, well, you need to have a positive. There was a positive multi-mode, low-build alternative validated by a federal court and imposed upon Caltrans and the Federal Highway Department. Thank you.
Thank you. While you're sitting there, you have a card for 7, and we can call 7 and ask the staff to start coming up on 7.
Item 7 is communication from the city attorney and ordinance relative to amending the LAMC to update civil parking penalties applicable to parking violations in the city.
Have to switch gears. Okay. Parking. Does the parking fines actually pay for the enforcement of parking? That's one of the critical elements. I would highly recommend that you increase the fines even more and perhaps increase the fees for parking, not only on the city streets, but as this ordinance indicates, off-street, private driveways, private property, and question is, does it apply to parking lots? Because within the context, there's a question as to what is the private street versus the public. We are reviewing an environmental impact report right now, which puts all of the parking within a very large condominium development as private property. So do these rules and fines apply not only to the public street, but also to the private driveways, the front yards, the definition of street? Is it a public street or a private street? Again, do these fine increases actually cover the cost of the enforcement of parking throughout the city on public and private? Thank you.
Very much. We have the staff come up, please. Could you give us just a brief overview of the purpose of this ordinance, and also if you could intertwine in that any responses to Mr. Williams' comment?
Thank you, Councilmember. Amir Sadati, Assistant General Manager, LADOT. What is before you is actually a communications from the City Attorney's Office regarding an ordinance amending the Chapter 8, which has to do with the parking fines, the civil parking penalties. The background on this basically came as a Senate Bill 425 was approved through the state that had to do with basically giving $1.50 that was exempted in the past from the courts, which now the state is asking all the cities in California to basically pay for. So this is a pass-through, and obviously we had discussions with the city attorney's office as well as CLA and CAO on this matter, and what is before you is basically because the state does not accept monetary increments of $1 or less, the 150 was rounded up to $2, and that results in the fines that you see before you. So this was just a little bit of background, and maybe Mr. Pritzker could give a little bit more background from the city attorney's perspective, and then I can answer the other question.
Yes, Keith Pritzker, Deputy City Attorney. I thought I would address Dr. Williams' question with regard to where these fines apply. And the short answer is that they apply in the public way. They don't apply on private property. However, if you have a violation, which is parking, the example that he gave was across a driveway, and that's part of the public way, then that would also be, these fines would be applicable to that situation. And I'll leave it to Mr. Sadati to answer the question about whether the fines that are in this schedule cover the cost of enforcement, which was another one of Dr. Williams' questions.
And as you know, Councilmember, we do obviously bring in close to $134 million for parking citations to the general fund. So in essence, all of the expenditures.
Special parking revenue?
No, this is the revenue that goes to the general fund. These are the parking citation
Not
fund.
parking meter?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
So yes, so all of the expenditures for our traffic officers and expenses are also expended from the general fund. So this is, obviously, yes, this pays for the cost of providing traffic and parking enforcement in the city of Los Angeles. And there are some violations that do have a code for example, parking on private driveway or property. So depending on the nature, we have the ability to enforce those things on the private property. Again, if it's called upon us, if there's a call for us, if it's signed appropriately, then that's something that we can do.
And give me that figure again, how much to the general fund?
This fiscal year, I believe it's budgeted 134. Last fiscal year, I think we came in at a little shy of that 133 million.
I understand this, if we don't impose this, then we're absorbing $3 million imposed by the state.
That is correct, because the state wants their money, and at this point, based on our conversation with the city attorney's office, we have already implemented the new fees because the state wants their money. Now, they haven't come back to retroactively ask for the previous, because this ordinance or this law was enacted January 1 of 2008.
And then let me ask, on timing, how quickly will we get this to council? Can we get that for Friday or a placeholder?
Councilmember, since this is a fee-related, public notice must be published in the newspaper at least 10 days prior to it being scheduled in council. So as soon since it will be in September 1st, the first meeting date after the summer recess.
Okay, and then that would make the ordinance effective what day? 30 days?
Depending on if it's published or just posted, it could go. It could be in effect either 41 days after the mayor signs the ordinance, or it could be at a shorter time.
But remember, the department is already collecting this money. They started in June, so we're assuming it's the end of September that it's going to become officially effective.
The issue is that the ordinance could be in effect by October, the latest?
Quite possibly, yes.
Okay, so this will be we make sure it's on the calendar for 9/1?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll move that item.
That brings us to item 6, which is a DOT report relative to the month-to-month extension of existing Community Dash Packages 1, 2, and 3 bus service contracts.
Good afternoon. My name is Corinne Rao. I'm the head of transit operations with LADOT. The department is requesting authority to extend 2 contracts for the Dash packages 1, 2, and 3. The current contract for package 1 and 2 is operated by MP Transportation, and the contract for package 3 is operated by Veolia Transportation. Both contracts are 3-year contracts with the options for 2 one-year extensions. The contracts end, the first one, package 3, ends in August 31st of 2009, and the package 1 and 2 ends in September the 17th of 2009. The department, after negotiations with the contractors, has determined that it was prudent to go back out to RFP, and that RFP was sent out on April of 2009. The report with the department's recommendations is currently with the mayor and the CAO. So in the meanwhile, we are asking for the extension of those 2 contracts on a month-to-month basis, not to exceed 6 months, so that there would be no service interruptions for the residents of the city.
With the current contract, are there option years?
Yes, there are 2 one-year options.
Why are we not invoking the option years as opposed to going forward on an RFP?
We had some extensive negotiations with the current contractors, and there were 2 reasons we could not find a cost-effective rate that would be to the best benefit of the city. And in terms of package 3, we had reduced the level of service with the current contract, and which had resulted in a contract negotiation for an increase in the rate. So we thought by going back out to RFP, it was possible that we would get a better rate for that package.
Okay, with that, what do we expect in the number of people that might participate in an RFP?
The RFP has been sent out back in April, and it has already been evaluated, and the recommendations from the department is currently with the mayor and with the CEO.
How many people applied on the RFP?
There are 2 contractors who responded to the RFP.
Would they happen to be the 2 that are
Yes.
currently doing it?
Yes.
So we only have 2 options,
Yes.
but that RFP is in place now. I mean, in the sense it's being reviewed now.
It's been reviewed and by the CEO and the mayor's office.
And then tell me why on Dash Package 3, it's such a significant increase for the next 6 months?
Actually, the rate for package 3 is the current rate that we have for the existing year 3 of the contract. So there's no rate increase until after 90 days.
Okay, but why, it's jumping, if I understand it, from what, $86 to $90?
That would be the new rate after the beginning of the 4th month of the extension.
Okay.
So
But we're not taking the same consideration on package 1 and 2.
No, package 1 and 2, the rate that we're asking for authority to negotiate is it's the proposed rate for the new RFP. So MV's response to the RFP, the first year rate is what we're using for the extension.
Okay, go over that again. On MV, the rate we're talking about for the next 6 months is the first year rate that's in the RFP that you're reviewing.
Yes.
And then go back on package 3.
Package 3, what we are using is the existing rate, year 3's rate of the current contract.
Okay, and then when you go to the 90, is that the first year rate?
Is
for
the first year,
RFP?
it's the current 3rd-year rate plus a CPI, a 4.5% CPI.
Okay, then, so with the negotiations going on, and so you're over there getting nervous because I'm asking about something that's in the process. We're not getting into what
No.
elements of that RFP are
Right.
today. So you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you. On our DASH program there, I just had a question. I don't know if representative of the general manager as well. It's a question I may direct to. I was thinking the other day, everybody loves Dash, but then we have commuter services. Is that money from the same funding source?
Yes, Commuter Express and Dash is both funded by Prop A.
So do we have a choice if we wanted to focus more on Dash than as far as Commuter Express? Because this is the question, I don't know if this is the right question to ask on this issue here, but James, my thought is this, the commuters have a lot of options more than sometimes Dash when there's no Dash. So as somebody to look at Dash is everybody wants to expand it. If people ask for expanded Dash in your district, but we're doing Commuter Express from faraway locations, it could really go to Metrolink as an option, or you shuttle to a Metrolink station.
Certainly, it's a policy decision on how we spend our money. I would point out that a couple things. One, we're going to be reporting back to the Transportation Committee probably by the end of this calendar year with a line-by-line analysis. As you know, based on previous discussions, we have a significant shortfall in Prop A, and we're looking to have to cut a lot of existing services unless new funding sources are identified. So we'll be coming back to you with a proposed set of service cuts to address the shortfall. Secondly, with regard to Commuter Express, we do get a lot of funding from the MTA through the FAP funding for Commuter Express actually in downtown Dash. So if we were to cut Commuter Express, we would lose that FAP funding from the MTA.
Well, if it's not our funding, but I mean, if it's something else, I could see if it's MTA funding, but if it's a choice, I think the choice we got to be is more focused on transit in LA City, not to be totally parochial, but in tough times, you have to take care of your house before you...
I understand. I guess the point I'm trying to make, I wasn't probably as clear as I need to be, the Commuter Express services in downtown Dash are, for the most part, funded with MTA funding rather than city funding. So if we were to cut those services, we wouldn't really save much in the way of city funding. It's the community Dash services where we're spending our local dollars.
Right.
Is it Prop C?
It's Prop A.
Good. So we're setting these on forward? Okay. Mr. Parks, thank you for chairing the meeting. That's okay, I got that, as long as you put that $10 million back on Wilshire Boulevard that you stole years ago.
I mean, you gave us something.
You didn't steal it, you just borrowed it for something else, yeah, reused it.
What'd they say, the new word, we repurposed it.
Repurpose the money, yeah, very good.
But let me ask you, you gave us a report a while back on Prop 8. Kind of give us a thumbnail, because I think we're in deficit.
Yeah, roughly, we're hoping, we look like we can squeeze by this year without any deficit, but next fiscal year, 10-11, we're looking at a projected $23 million shortfall. And then it goes up from there. It averages, it's over the 10-year period, it's $260 million shortfall, which is an average of $26 million a year. So as we've been saying on numerous occasions when we talked about the shortfall, we're in for real rough times starting next year unless new funding sources are identified, and one potential source would be Measure R, but I know there are a lot of need in the city, and that's going to have to be determined by the city council and mayor.
I know this is not on the agenda, but I'll say it real fast when the city attorney says anything. Where are we on Prop R local return criteria?
Yeah, the department is going to conduct another interdepartmental meeting with various stakeholders, and then bring something back to committee. I think we talked about September, I think you said the last meeting.
Anything else?
That's it. Madam Clerk, we've covered the agenda.
Yes, you have.
Do we have any public comment?
Yes. However, Ms. Joan Taylor just arrived. I don't know.
Sure, well, that's okay, Ms. Taylor.
She's filling out a form right now.
So Rita Robinson has just arrived too. Rita, you want to report anything to the chair, vice chair, or chair of the finance committee or anything? Okay.
Mr. Chair, would you like to revisit items 1 through 5 as well?
Yes, because there's only 2 people, so we could be a majority, right?
Yes.
Oh, good, yeah, I'll vote everything with Mr. Parks. Okay, and then I'll take over the meeting, you could go back to your meeting. On public comment, Joan Taylor?
Oh, thank you.
Anybody want to make a public comment here? Sergeant, would you tell Ms. Taylor I'll take her comment? We have someone who's assisting her. Dr. Williams, you're just here for observation? Very well. Uh-huh. Now we hear it. Very well. Joan Taylor. And no other public comment at this time?
Thank you for hearing me earlier. I have an MTA meeting at 4:30, and I appreciate. I'm asking Mr. Labange if you would consider giving up your vote or recusing yourself from any transportation committee effort on senior disabled. My effort to get rid of the door-to-door, the Department of Aging door-to-door transportation program. Because as chair of the Committee on Aging, you have a vote decisive there. If you are acting for several months here, you have a second vote. And I know that you oppose my efforts, and I would just like to have the possibility of your recusal from a second vote on any issue that comes up for senior and disabled transportation on the door-to-door transportation program. I hope you can consider this.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor, look at the screen for that. Mr. City Attorney, Ms. Taylor asked me to recuse myself on issues. I'm on the Arts and Parks Committee that deals with seniors, and on the Transportation Committee. But as a council member, it's my obligation to serve all the people and all the issues. I see no need to ask to recuse myself. Could you weigh in on that? The benefit of Ms. Taylor?
Keith Pritzker, Deputy City Attorney. Unless there is a personal conflict of interest, there's no reason to recuse yourself. And simply sitting on two separate council committees in and of itself would not be a basis for recusal.
Very good.
But you are not just sitting on these, you are chair. You are chair, interim chair here. You are chair of the arts program.
That wouldn't make a difference. The recusal concept is based on a conflict of interest, and such a conflict is almost always as a result of personal interest, that is ownership of property or some other interest that is specifically different from the interest of the city as a whole. And no one has their heart in the city's interest as a whole more than Councilman Labange.
Well, thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Ms. Taylor, do you not like me? Do you not like me?
I have no personal dislike.
I know. I love you too, Ms. Taylor. I've known you a long time. I love you too. I've known you a long time. I think I've been working for the city for 35 years, and I think I've known you all the time when you used to call. So.
I do notice that since I have opposed the Department of Aging program, I have seen changes in less impersonal behavior in the neighborhood council as well.
Well, thank you, Ms. Taylor, for your comments today. Is there any other public comment at this time?
No,
Madam Clerk,
no, Mr. Chair,
Mr. Parks, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Parks, for running it.